So the entity. I have to figure this out. So close here. He. I keep wanting to call it a he. Generational curse. Came into being or attachment with me during my lifetime as Sabrina Ann Farnsworth. Sabrina Ann Farnsworth. See, I have this need recently, really strong need, to get back to Scotland. And when I'm talking to the gal yesterday that came to defend me and ended up getting pulled in and eviscerated likewise by Cheryl, talking to her afterward, and this is when we realized that this is actually Jeannie's fiance. Or we put together a lot of pieces, and this is who we figured out this individual was, with her very puzzling behavior. And how it mirrored a lot of Jeannie's fiance's behavior. And I started wondering, did she just concoct a whole bunch of stories? Is she actually just a really good liar? And does she have this ability to mask herself in the astral to make it seem like she has that she has an illness or something like that, something that she's going to elicit some sort of sympathy? Now, as Sabrina, no, that thought's not coming yet. So I'm talking about this gal, Cheryl, and I realize so I realize that the gal I'm talking to now, and I'm just going to call her England, okay? So England and I are talking, and we both had felt gravely concerned for Jeannie when he met this gal that he quickly made his fiancée. I thought for me personally it was jealousy. So to hear somebody else that was not jealous, but just thinks of him as a good friend, to express these same sentiments, it caused me to realize I ignored a whole bunch of alarm bells, all because I thought I was jealous. Now I'm wondering whether those feelings of jealousy in me, because I really couldn't understand how they rose so rapidly and with such vivacity and horrendousness. I felt so ugly. It was just, I really actually didn't even feel like this was me. It really felt like this was something else, not of me. But I was just like, well, this must just be some really deep part of my shadow I have to deal with. I actually do think, I'm starting to think that my naivety saved me, saved him, and probably caused me to be a much better detective than I would have been otherwise. I also do need to question the intentions of this entity, because while it is responsible for having done a lot of really bad things, it is responsible for destroying my life in so many ways and keeping me down, because every time I try to do something, it keeps pulling me back. And I'm becoming aware enough now to finally realize there is something that is influencing me. So one of the ways I ended up protecting Jeannie was I had this Scottish ditty going through my head. I've only heard this song a handful of times, so I had to go look it up here on YouTube. So I didn't even know the words or anything. It's just like it's just one of those kind of ubiquitous songs. You hear it in movies or whatever. And I told him a few weeks later when Cheryl friended me that my goal was Scotland. What I didn't tell him is that I knew very well I would meet him in Scotland. And I needed to get back home to Scotland. So now I wonder if the only way for me to remove this entity attachment is for me to get back home to Scotland. And I realized this yesterday as I'm talking with this gal I call England, because that's where she's from. I realized that I had done a lot of things unconsciously to protect Jeannie that had to do with Mother England. That was the phrase that came to me last night. I felt like calling it Mother England. I mean, realistically, for the longest time here in America, we called her Mother England. And I would actually dare say that for quite some time, even after the Revolutionary War, she was still called Mother England. And by those who still felt that loyalty. I need to get back there. Sabrina Ann Farnsworth left the England area. I'm not sure if it was Wales or Scotland or it was just someplace over there. Now, Sabrina and her family had carried forward a lineage of Druids. They carried forward this information that was quickly having to move to the underground. That was not socially acceptable anymore because Christianity was becoming more widespread. The witch hunts were well underway. And like I said, this was about my feeling about 300 years ago. No, it would be longer because I get the impression this took place in about the 1600s. No. It was later than that because America was already here. It was a brand new country, and she ended up needing to escape England to come here to America. And there was this whole tragic thing that happened where she lost her entire family. And this was just hours after being impregnated with the seed that was to carry the lineage of Jesus. But something else followed her. Something else attached itself to her. Maybe she had twins. Whatever the thing was, is her child from this union with her fiancé. Because they were supposed to be married within a few months. And so she and her family had all this hidden knowledge from the Druids, but they tried to hide it. And she was a very bright girl and picked up all of this stuff. And in many ways, I see so much of myself in her in this lifetime. She didn't see anything wrong with this knowledge. She didn't see any reason why this knowledge should remain hidden. And so she just wanted to talk about it. She wanted to share it. She felt like this was big revelations that everybody needed to know about. And in my books, I revisited this scene and realized that Samba was there. And he was just there like he has been with me through many lifetimes as just a guardian angel, in essence. But he was the one responsible for getting her to realize that she needed to stay quiet. And So she did, and grew into a young woman, received all the training in herbs and cooking and whatever that a young woman of that time would. And she was initiated fully into womanhood by her fiancé. There was this sense of they didn't know really what they were doing. They were just kind of acting on impulse or just in a daze. And then as they were leaving this grove, this sacred grove, they suddenly came back to their senses, and then they started hearing all this screaming from the village not too far away, and realized that there was this big thunderstorm or something that was going on that was causing a lot of destruction. Of course, actually I think it was a thunderstorm, yeah, and there was just a ton of rain, thunder, and booming everywhere. Lightning was striking and starting everything on fire. In my mind's eye, it really reminds me of kind of like a scene of what I always pictured Sodom and Gomorrah was like. That destruction. And I can't even explain it, because that's once again another image in my mind's eye. It's just this whole apocalyptic sort of seeming thing. So Sabrina's family, everyone in the village is trying to just get inside, get down into their cellars where it's safe. And Sabrina and her fiancé, because they came into the village late, are now picking up children around the outskirts of the village that were just playing. And one child ends up getting stuck in some mud or something like that, so Sabrina runs out further to go try to save it. And at this point, some lightning strikes in the middle of the town square, and I guess, or somewhere around there, and there was the blacksmith's bench. And the hammer that he was using ends up, I don't know. See, honestly, the more I think about this, it seems like a really supernatural event, because this hammer became airborne and came right towards Sabrina, and she's carrying this young child and running for the safety of the houses. And now this hammer, because she's, just about into the town square, it's one of these things where there's just several little houses all in a circle. It's just what this little township was. So she's just about in the middle there, about ready to try to run toward the nearest house, and this hammer is coming toward her. For her, time stops, and she sees this, and she's able to move out of the line of this hammer. But she is not able to move her body fast enough to shield the child. So she's able to move back, but she's not able to get anything else to happen quick enough to shield the child. And the child is decapitated. And it ends up brushing against her and knocking her unconscious. Oh, lightning at this also, then a lightning. Oh, this is actually why she ended up stopping, was because the lightning struck her house. And so and this is where she was running to with the child, was to her house. And the last image floating, was her fiancé beckoning her to hurry up. And then all of a sudden lightning strikes and the whole house explodes. And there's just nothing left but a smoldering ditch. It was just all eviscerated, gone. And so she's standing there in like this state of shock, and she becomes aware that the shock wave from this blast dislodged this hammer, and it is coming toward her. And like I said, she does manage to slightly evade this hammer, but does not manage to move quick enough to save the child, and it knocks her unconscious too. So she awakens then under the care of this other woman, this older woman, who basically, I think she knew of them, she was a sympathizer, or she was part of the Druid order or something like that, and kept her profile low too. So she's taking care of Sabrina, but she tells Sabrina, you're gonna have to leave. You're gonna have to get out of here, because you have this seed to protect. You have to make sure that seed gets to America where it needs to go. And because right now everyone in this town is considering it your fault that this storm struck. They're calling you a witch, and they want blood. And it is also, from their perspective, your fault that the child died, and that you are the one that killed your family. And so Sabrina, the woman ends up buying Sabrina some time to recover, like one more day, and just does her best to stock her up with clothes and food, and sends her on a journey through this underground tunnel system below the house. Sabrina exits the tunnel eventually and ends up receiving some help from the Druids or whatever, and some magical beings that were there too. And they helped her to escape toward America. So when she's on the ship, this was during the time when voyages still took a really long time. And so she ended up giving birth on the ship. But you see, I don't really have much conscious recollection of this, because in many ways it's like she was in and out of consciousness, or she was just walking around in a daze because she had just lost her family. Everything that she knew. And she didn't even really know that she was pregnant. And somehow there was this other woman there that started acting like her friend. And when Sabrina went into labor, the woman was the midwife, but ended up in like drugging or whatever of Sabrina. And so in Sabrina's mind, she made up the whole thing about being pregnant. And she didn't have a baby. She didn't know, and she didn't even recall really ever delivering a baby. What she didn't know was that this woman had taken the child and claimed it as her own. And I'm now seeing a very striking resemblance to my whole present circumstances of me thinking I'm pregnant. And then even talking about needing to find the wisdom of Solomon, and where he was able to determine who the real mother of this baby was based on the one that was willing to give up the child so that it might live. This video has gotten to be 18 minutes. I'm going to end this right now, and I'll be back.